the beef market is a very specialized market. It goes in long cycles, and this is the perfect storm. Again, something we inherited, and there's also, because of the mass immigration, a disease that we've been rid of in North America made its way up through South America. As these migrants, they brought some of their cattle with them. So part of the problem is we've had to shut the border to Mexican beef because of this disease called the screwworm. So we're not going to let that get into our supply chain.
Yeah. Treasury Secretary
he's
Scott
a soybean
Bessent.
farmer.
Yeah, he would know.
So he would know. It's sort of like rawhide.
Yeah.
Round them up, round them. Yeah,
Did they walk the cows
rawhide.
over the border?
Yeah. Don't try to understand them. Just rope them up and brand them.
Okay.
So how many scenes? During the Biden administration, we all got sick of it. You would see somebody coming from Mexico, and they'd have like about 200 head of beef trailing behind them.
Riding a cow.
Right into Juarez. Right into Juarez.
Overwhelming
baby.
the Border Patrol. Just the cows would come through.
The border is quite porous, obviously.
Well, if you can get 100 cow over at a time. But he's a soybean farmer.
Right.
Don't expect soybean farmers to understand ranching.
He's not a cattle rancher.
Okay.
Obviously not.
But concerned about the screwworm, though.
Aren't we all?
True.
The thing is, though, it really just shows how unserious these people are. Like,
that was a joke.
You have the Vice President of the United States blaming the housing crisis on illegal immigrants. You have the Treasury Secretary blaming it on, I guess, Hispanic cattle rustlers, so the beef crisis. they're just not serious. What is serious, though, is this: New York Times. You actually have children being left alone without their parents because you have the administration so obsessed on reaching their numbers. And Stephen Miller thinks this is a good idea. Stephen Miller thinks this is a good idea, and Donald Trump lets it happen. Can we zoom in on this picture, please? Donald Trump lets this happen, where children, here's a 2-year-old, are left without their parents because they're trying to meet quotas that we said from the beginning, and we'll say it again. Quotas that will never, ever be met. This is America 2025.
It's that image and that headline why Donald Trump's numbers on immigration are so underwater. This was supposed to be a signature issue. Americans are saying that's too much. Outside, maybe that thrills the hardest core faction of his base.
Yeah.
But we know that the numbers they set out, the millions they want deported, not going to happen. And that though Americans, in 2024 showed this, they want the southern border to be managed better. They want it to be close. And it is. But this sort of, that seems to some to be the cruelty of some of these deportations, where it's just your neighbors, your friends, your parishioners at church, the guys on your sports team and their kids, that they're the ones being moved out and parents being deported, leaving their children behind. It's a humanitarian moment and as well as a bad political.
I will say it again.
Different word for it.
I could save you a lot of pain and misery in the administration if you just listen to us. You don't have the money to do this. You don't have the ability to even meet Biden's numbers. Why don't you have the ability? Because so many people came over the border during Biden's presidency, and they were right there at the southern border, so they could round up thousands of people in a day and deport them whenever they wanted to do that. So instead, they're going town to town, city to city. They're busting into schools and grabbing teachers. They're busting into carpool lines, grabbing mothers. This is grotesque. And
asking people if they were born here. Often detaining citizens by mistake.
How many citizens have been detained here? It was the front page of the Chicago Tribune this weekend that you actually had, again, more American citizens being detained. It's really, it's staggering. And Americans want a secure southern border. They do not want what they're saying. And we got David Rode here. David, I think one of the most remarkable things I've seen in American politics coming from clergy, probably the most since Jerry Falwell decided to get involved in politics in 78, 79, and I'm not comparing the two here. One of the most remarkable things I've seen is Pope Leo, Catholic bishops, Catholic priests doing something unbelievably radical. I'm sure the White House thinks this is radical. Republicans, they are quoting Jesus Christ. And they are quoting Jesus Christ from the pulpit, and they are showing how un-Christ-like these ICE raids are, where they're ripping children from their mothers' hands. They are going into schools. They are tearing teachers out. I mean, this is the Catholic bishops and Pope Leo. This is a game changer. I know people outside the faith community may not understand this, but this is a game changer. And Pope Leo saying, oh, really? You call yourself pro-life just because you're against abortion, but you support this inhumane treatment of immigrants? No. Those two don't square up.
There's the ethics of it, and then there's also a genuine national security challenge and danger here. There was a separate Times story this weekend about the Department of Homeland Security being completely transformed and becoming, in essence, the Department of Deportation. And there's been a huge drop in sex trafficking investigations, child exploitation investigations. It's 33% lower so far this year than it has been in past years. The FBI has the same problem. Agents are shifted over to these investigations of immigration cases. So it's a tremendous change. And this is the department that was set up after 9/11 to protect the country.
This is yesterday's New York Times lead story about it.
Yeah.
All of these people that ran around going, oh, sex trafficking, oh, only Donald Trump can stop sex, oh, Tom Hanks and Oprah Winfrey and all these other people are child predators. They are literally, this story shows that they will be getting phone calls from people saying, a hotel owner saying, sex trafficking is happening out of my hotel. And they go, we're sorry. Our agents have been reassigned. They can't help you. There are girls that have been missing because of sexual abuse. And they've said, Mika, they can't help because they're trying to reach a quota they will never reach. So human trafficking, sex trafficking, out the window.
Right.
Out the window.
So speaking of trafficking, we're going to get right back to this because there is, of course, the Christian answer to Trump that we're looking at as well. But the Epstein files are creating a rift between Trump and even his most loyal supporters. We're going to look into that. Marjorie Taylor Greene, what's going on with her. Also, the president has taken a complete 180 on the release of these documents. We're going to talk about why, and also talk about his tariffs. It appears that he's acknowledging that his tariffs are raising prices on everyday items for Americans. Opinion columnist for the New York Times, David French, is with us, and CEO and co-founder of Axios, Jim Vandehei, joins us this morning as well. So, David, continuing the conversation that Joe was having with the other David, you're writing about sort of this response to Trump on all of this. Tell us about it.
Yeah, I think Joe's exactly right. I think that was a very important moment when the Catholic bishops came out really with almost one voice. I think the vote was 216-5 to condemn this, this crackdown that, as Joe's been saying, is indiscriminate. It's brutal. It's a masked police force. It's diverting from other parts of the law enforcement apparatus, all to pour into this just campaign of absolute brutality. And it's not just a campaign of brutality. In some cases, it's extending into actually confronting religious freedom and religious liberty. You've seen priests denied entry to facilities to conduct communion. Down in Texas, you've seen aggressive legal campaigns against Catholic institutions that have been providing food and clothing and shelter to migrants. And so this kind of campaign is not something that the American people signed up for. It is not something that they like when they see. And sadly, because it's empowered by so many evangelical Christians who voted for Trump, this becomes also part of Trump's religious movement, and it requires a religious answer. And that's what we saw from the Catholic bishops, appealing to these scriptural principles about duties of care for all people. And I think that this moment, this line in the sand moment, is very important.
Yeah, and you know, the crazy thing is, David, and you know this, you grew up in the church. I know it. I grew up in the church, not the Catholic Church, Protestant church. But there's no ambiguity here. Like, if you read the red letters, if you read what Jesus, there's literally, I'm sorry, there's no ambiguity here. You can start at the Sermon on the Mount, and look at that. You can look at Matthew 25, where Jesus talks about separating the sheep and the goats. And when you take care of the least among these, you take care of me. You can look at who Jesus surrounded himself with, whether it was while he was out preaching or whether he was eating in somebody's home. You can look at all of it, and right to the point. And again, you can't be a Christian and not understand what Pope Leo is saying when you read the parable of the Good Samaritan. Jesus said, love God, and also love your neighbors. Someone asks, who is our neighbor? Jesus picks the most despised foreigner he can find. He picks the Samaritan. As we watch the religious leaders walk past, do nothing to the man beaten up on the side of the road, business people walk past the beaten man on the side of the road, Jesus picks the Samaritan, the very man his audience hated the most, and said, he took care of you here. He took care of your kind. He is your neighbor. And so he's saying, take care of the foreigner. The foreigner is your neighbor. This is so unambiguous that it's one of the things that I know you found most maddening, I found most maddening, and a few of the people I grew up with in the church found most maddening with everything that's been happening over the past year.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, and the Trump administration does something kind of very diabolically clever when you call them out, is they try to present this as if the two options are what they're doing with this masked, brutal force that's engaging in large-scale racial profiling, that's brutalizing even American citizens and legal immigrants in many cases. They're saying it's this or it's open borders, as if this is the only alternative to some sort of wide open border. And, you know, the Catholic bishops acknowledge nations are allowed to have borders. A controlled flow of immigration is an important reality. However, if somebody is here suspected to be here illegally or here illegally, they're still entitled to be treated with decency and humanity. I mean, they still have human rights. And this is the thing that is so frustrating to people, is they understand that, yes, we need border enforcement. We absolutely need to control our border. But at the same time, controlling our border does not mean brutalizing people and depriving them of their human rights. We're living through an era, honestly, we're going to look back on with national shame the way people are treating. And the reports of conditions in detention facilities are continuing to come out. There have been reports from the CCOT facility where people were deported to without due process, that outright torture took place there. It's just extraordinary. You can have a controlled border without dehumanizing people.
I would tell you, if evangelical churches do not follow the lead of what the Catholic bishops are doing right now, they will look back on this time period with the same shame that they look back on the civil rights era, when too many preached about the status quo and try to justify segregation and try to justify the dehumanizing of black people. It's their choice, and it's time they move. Okay, so this is an extraordinarily important issue, but we haven't gotten to our top story of the day.
Right. We're gonna do that.
We've got the Epstein files. We've got Jim Vandehei. He's talking about the split in the MAGA movement and so much more.
Right. So we're going to get the very latest on the vote to release the Epstein files and also the rift within the MAGA base about that. Morning Joe will be right back.
Matthew's Gospel, chapter 25, which says, Jesus says very clearly, at the end of the world, we're going to be asked, how did you receive the foreigner? Did you receive him and welcome him or not? And I think that there's a deep reflection that needs to be made in terms of what's happening.